Have you ever stopped to think about how many hours of your day you spend thinking about the future? Planning the next step, the next goal, the next objective? Some people spend so much time building mental castles around tomorrow that they forget to live the only thing that truly exists, the present. The Japanese have an old proverb that says, "Asu no Hyaku yori kyou no goju." 50 today is better than 100 tomorrow. Sounds simple? But this concept carries a truth that can completely change the way you see your life. Because we live in a culture obsessed with the future, with "it'll all work out later," with "when I achieve this, then I'll be happy," with "just a little more, and then I'll relax." And while you're there, planning the next step, real life is happening right under your nose and you don't even realize it. This is the story of a guy named Sebastian, an ordinary ambitious guy with clear goals and an impeccable life plan. He only had one problem. He was so focused on tomorrow that he had completely forgotten to live today. And before you think, "Oh, but I'm not like that," let me ask you a question. When was the last time you enjoyed an achievement without already starting to think about the next one? When was the last time you savored a moment without feeling anxious about what comes next? That's what I'm talking about. Before we continue, if you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And comment below, do I live more in the present or in the future? I want to know your honest answer. Now let's get to the story. Chapter 1. The Life of Sebastian. Sebastian was 27 years old and lived in Portland. He worked at a tech startup, one of those that promised to change the world. He was a project analyst, earned well, had a nice apartment, and drove a decent car. On the surface, everything was fine, but Sebastian couldn't enjoy anything he had. You know that type of person who finishes one task and jumps onto the next without even breathing? Who reaches a goal and instead of celebrating is already worried about the next one? Who is at dinner with friends, but mentally is already at Monday's meeting? It was him. Sebastian lived in a constant state of anticipation. Every achievement was just a stepping stone. Every present moment was merely preparation for a better future. He had a never-ending mental list. When I get promoted, when I buy a house, when I have more money saved, when I'm more prepared, when. The present? The present was merely an obstacle between him and the future he had in mind. Sebastian woke up at 5:30 every day. I went to the gym, not because I enjoyed it, but because one day this will make a difference to my health. I drank coffee while reading articles about productivity. At work, I took on extra projects because this will put me ahead for my next promotion. On weekends, I took online courses because I need to be prepared for the job market in 5 years. Question: where did this guy really live? In the present or in a fantasy about the future? And look, it wasn't that Sebastian was unhappy in the classic sense of the word. He wasn't depressed. He didn't cry in the shower. But there was something empty, as if he were always in transit, never at his destination. Always almost there, never "I've arrived." His friends began to notice. When they went out together, Sebastian was physically there, but mentally he was already gone. When they made plans, he would always say, "I don't know if I can. I have to check my schedule," because any free time was an opportunity to invest in the future. There was one time his mother called him on his birthday. They talked for 10 minutes. After she hung up, Sebastian couldn't remember what they had talked about, because while she was talking, he was checking emails on his computer. His life was a race. But where to? He didn't even know anymore. Oh. Chapter 2. The Breakdown. Then what had to happen, happened. Sebastian had spent 6 months working on a massive project. All-nighters, sacrificed weekends, postponed vacations. All because he knew, he was sure, that this project would secure his promotion. He had calculated everything. This was the big move that would change his career. The project was a success. The company saved almost $1 million. Everyone praised it. His boss patted him on the shoulder and said, "Great job, Sebastian." And then, 2 weeks later, they announced the promotion. They gave it to someone else. Not because Sebastian didn't deserve it, but because the other guy had a better cultural fit with the leadership team. Translation: he was a friend of the director. Sebastian was in shock. It couldn't be. He had done everything right, he had planned everything, he had sacrificed everything. That night he sat on the sofa in his apartment and looked around. The place was clean, organized, everything in its place. But it seemed lifeless. There wasn't a single picture on the wall. There wasn't a mess to indicate that someone actually lived there. It was like a hotel room, a place of transit. And that's when it hit me. Sebastian realized that he had spent the last few years of his life waiting for the right moment, waiting for the great achievement, waiting to be happy, later. And the later never came, because there was always another later ahead. He looked at his phone. He had dozens of unanswered messages, friends who had given up trying to call, an ex-girlfriend who had broken up with him because, in her words, it's like dating a ghost, a brother who had had a baby and he had barely visited. Sebastian had invested so much in the future that he had completely lost sight of the present. And worse, the future he had planned so carefully. There was no guarantee it would ever happen. He had traded the certain for the uncertain. He had exchanged $50 in cash for a vague promise of $100 a year from now, and now he realized that perhaps those $100 would never arrive. He went to sleep that night with a strange feeling. It wasn't sadness, it was doubt. Doubt about whether he had been doing everything wrong from the beginning. I want to make something clear here. I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about the future. I'm not saying you should live life without planning. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest and strive for self-improvement. But I am saying that the relentless pursuit of improvement, always looking ahead but never living in the present, is one of the biggest causes of anxiety, because you live in constant stress, constantly thinking, and now? What's the next step? Many people think about the next step without even having digested the achievements of the present. Chapter 3. George. The following Saturday, Sebastian did something he hadn't done in months. He went out without any objective, no goal, no plan, no agenda. He ended up in a small cafe in downtown Portland, one of those quiet places with plants in the windows and soft music. He ordered a coffee and sat by the window. That's when he noticed the gentleman at the next table. He was about 70 years old with white hair, simple but well-kept clothes. The man was there alone, drinking tea and reading an old book. But what caught Sebastian's attention was his expression. The old man seemed at peace, as if he had no hurry, no worries, no place to be but right there. Sebastian couldn't help it. "Sorry to bother you," he said, "but you seem very calm. What's the secret?" The old man looked at him, gave a half smile and said, "Secret? I have no secret. I'm just here." "Is he the only one here?" "Yes, here, in this cafe. Right now. I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm not planning for tomorrow. I'm just here." Sebastian was about to reply with something ironic, like, it must be nice to be retired, but something in the old man's expression made him fall silent. "May I sit down?" Sebastian asked. "Of course." And that's when a conversation began that would completely change Sebastian's perspective on life. The old man's name was George. He had been an engineer, had worked all his life, raised 3 children. "But I only discovered how to truly live after I turned 60. I was just like you," George said, looking deep into Sebastian's eyes. "I could see it in your face. You're always thinking about the next step, aren't you?" Sebastian felt as if someone had read his mind. "How do you know?" "Because I used to be like that. I spent 40 years of my life postponing things, always thinking that happiness lay in the next achievement, the next job, the next trip I would take someday. You know what happened?" "What?" "I woke up at 58 and realized I had missed my children's lives. I had missed moments with my wife. I had lost the taste of things because I was always thinking about tomorrow." Sebastian swallowed hard. "And how did you change that?" George pulled an old piece of paper from his wallet. It had a handwritten phrase in Japanese with the translation underneath. "Asu no Hyaku yori kyou no go ju. 50 today is better than 100 tomorrow." "I learned this from a Japanese colleague years ago," George explained. "But I only truly understood it when I almost lost my wife. She had a health scare, and then it hit me. I had spent decades planning a future with her, but I hadn't lived the present with her. And what does that phrase mean exactly? It means that having $50 in your pocket today is worth more than the promise of 100 tomorrow, because tomorrow is uncertain. And while you wait for the $100 of the future, you are wasting the $50 of the present. Sebastian remained silent. It's not about being irresponsible or stopping planning, George continued. It's about valuing what you have now. It's about realizing that life isn't about the destination. Life is about the journey. And if you're always rushing toward the next destination, you never truly live. That hit Sebastian like a punch to the gut, because that was exactly what he was doing. He had sacrificed the entire present in the name of a future that might never come, or that, when it did come, would only be another step towards another future. And how do I do that? Sebastian asked, and this time there was a real urgency in his voice. George smiled. You start by asking, what do I have today that I'm ignoring because I'm thinking about tomorrow? Chapter 4. Change. Sebastian left that coffee changed. It wasn't a magical transformation, like waking up transformed, but it was as if a light had been switched on in a room that had been dark for years. He started small. The next day, instead of waking up at 5:30 in robot mode, he woke up, stretched, and actually paid attention to the sunlight coming through the window. Sounds silly? Maybe. But it was something he hadn't done in years. At breakfast, he put his phone down. He just ate. He savored the taste of the coffee. He realized he had forgotten what it was like to do just one thing without mental multitasking. He went to work and for the first time in months truly greeted people. Not that automatic hi while you're already thinking about something else, but a real greeting, looking them in the eye, paying attention. A female co-worker of his commented, "You seem different today. Did something good happen?" And Sebastian realized, yes, it had happened. He had awakened to the present, but the real change wasn't immediate. It was a process, because unlearning years of anxiety about the future doesn't happen overnight. There was a moment, about 2 weeks later, that truly tested him. His boss called him into a meeting and offered him a new project, a big project that would require weekends and nights, and which, who knows, might open doors in the future. The old Sebastian would have accepted immediately, but this time he stopped and thought, what am I sacrificing today for this promise of tomorrow? And the answer was clear. He had arranged to spend the weekend with his brother and nephew, whom he barely knew. He had finally decided to take that trip to the forest that he had always postponed. He had real plans in the present. Can I think about it and get back to you tomorrow? Sebastian said. The boss was surprised. Sure, but it's a good opportunity, isn't it? I know, I just need to evaluate it properly. That night, Sebastian applied what George had taught him. He didn't think about what this might bring me in 6 months. He thought about what this will cost me today, now, this week, and he decided to refuse. It was one of the hardest decisions of his life, because everything inside him screamed, "You're throwing away an opportunity." But a new, calmer voice said, "You're choosing 50 today, instead of betting on 100 tomorrow." Chapter 5. The Fruits of the Present. Do you know what happened after Sebastian turned down the project? Nothing catastrophic. The world didn't end. He wasn't fired. He didn't go bankrupt. In fact, something happened that he didn't expect. He felt lighter. He spent that weekend with his brother and nephew. They played, laughed, and truly talked. And when Sebastian held his 4-year-old nephew in his lap, he realized, if I had accepted that project, I would have missed this. And this will never come back. This moment, this hug, this laugh, it's now or never. It's laugh. He went on a trip to the forest, alone, without a cell phone, without signal, without emails, without anything. Just him and nature. At first, it was unsettling. His mind wouldn't stop racing. I should be doing something. I'm wasting time. This isn't going to get me anywhere. But on the second day, something changed. He was sitting on a rock, looking at a stream, and simply, he stopped. He stopped thinking about the past. He stopped planning the future, and he stayed there, present, real, alive. And for the first time in years, Sebastian felt true peace. When he returned, things at work remained the same. But he was different. He had learned something that no one had taught him in school, in college, in any productivity course: the value of now. He began applying asu no hyaku yori kyou no go ju to everything. When he reached a goal at work, he would stop and celebrate. Truly. He would call the team together, thank them, acknowledge their achievement. He didn't jump straight to the next objective. When he went out with friends, he'd put his phone down, he'd talk, he'd laugh, he'd be present. And you know what happened? People started wanting to be closer to him because he had become real again. He started cooking, not because one day this will be useful, but because he enjoyed the process. The smell, the taste, the act of creating something with his own hands. He started playing the guitar again, something he had given up years ago because it wasn't leading anywhere. He played badly, but he was present in it, and that was enough. Psychologists have a term to describe what Sebastian was doing: mindfulness. But this isn't a modern invention. The Japanese have practiced it for centuries, especially through concepts like ichigo ichi, this moment, once in a lifetime. Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who brought the practice of mindfulness to the West, says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And that's exactly it. You can't control the future, but you can live fully in the present. The philosopher Alan Watts said something similar. That's the real secret of life, being completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realizing that it's play. And the Japanese? They take this so seriously that they have dozens of proverbs on the subject. Asu no hyaku yori kyou no go ju is just one of them. Another famous one is ichi go ichi e, each encounter only once. It means that each moment is unique and will never be repeated exactly the same way. Think about it. You'll never have this day again, this hour, this minute. So why waste it thinking about a tomorrow that may never come? Chapter 6. The Profound Change. 6 months had passed since the encounter with George at the cafe. Sebastian had changed so much that the people around him noticed. His ex-girlfriend Rachel sent him a message. "Hi, I saw your photos on Instagram. You seem happy, really. What happened?" They arranged to meet for coffee. Rachel was impressed by his transformation. "You're different now. Before you were always distant. Even when you were with me, it was like your mind was somewhere else." Sebastian nodded. "That's right. I was always thinking about the next step, never about the step I was taking." "And what has changed?" "I learned that 50 today is worth more than 100 tomorrow." Rachel frowned. "What does that mean?" And Sebastian explained. He spoke about George, about the Japanese concept, about how he had spent years accumulating life debts, lost moments, postponed experiences, neglected people, all in the name of a future that never arrived. "You know what I realized," Sebastian said, "that I was living as if life were a race to a prize at the end. But there is no prize, there is no finish line. Life is the whole journey, and I was running so fast that I didn't see anything around me." Rachel was silent for a moment, processing. Then she asked, "And are you happy now?" Sebastian pondered the question. "Happy? I don't know if a permanent state of happiness exists, but I am present. I am truly living, and that's better than any happiness I imagined for 5 years from now." They never got back together, but that conversation stayed with them both, because Rachel was also living on autopilot, planning, waiting, postponing. And Sebastian realized something important. He wasn't alone. Almost everyone he knew lived like this, anxious about the future, trapped in the past, never truly present in the present. At work, Sebastian began to influence the people around him, not in a boring way, not by preaching, but through example. When a colleague was stressed about a deadline, he would ask, "Okay, but what can you do today, right now, at this moment?" It was incredible how that simple change of focus reduced the anxiety, because anxiety comes from projecting into the future, from "what if I don't succeed? What if it goes wrong? What if I'm not good enough?" But when you focus on the present, all that's left is action, and action reduces anxiety. Chapter 7. The Wisdom of the Proverb. But there's one thing Sebastian took a while to understand about Asu no Hyaku yori kyou no goju. And that's the part that many people miss. It's not about being irresponsible. It's not about throwing all planning out the window and living solely on impulse. Those who follow this proverb are not stupid or reckless. These people plan, save, think about the future. The difference is that they don't sacrifice the present on the altar of the future. Let me explain better. Sebastian still had goals. He still wanted to advance in his career. He still saved money, but he had learned to do it without losing sight of the present. For example, he continued going to the gym, but now he wasn't going thinking, this will give me health in 20 years. He went and enjoyed the workout. He felt his body, enjoyed the process. The future was a consequence, not the main objective. He continued to work well, delivering projects, but he was no longer obsessed with the next promotion. He did a good job because it was his job. Now, present. The promotion would come or it wouldn't, and that was okay. And you know what happened? 8 months after that project he turned down, they offered him a better promotion because he had become a better employee, not because I was desperate to grow, but because I was present in what I did. It's a crazy paradox. When you stop desperately chasing the future finds you in a more natural way. Another insight Sebastian had. He realized that his obsession with the future was actually an escape from the present, because the present is sometimes uncomfortable, it's uncertain, it's imperfect. It's easier to live in the fantasy of, when I achieve that, then I'll be happy, than to face the fact that you can be happy now, with what you have, imperfect as you are. George was right. Life isn't about the destination. Life is about the journey. And Sebastian had spent years running so fast toward the destination that he'd forgotten to look at the scenery. So let's recap everything we've seen here. Sebastian was a guy who lived anxiously, thinking about tomorrow, always planning, always preparing, always waiting for the right moment to be happy. Until he lost a promotion he was sure would be his, and that made him question everything. He met George, who taught him a Japanese concept that said, 50 today is better than 100 tomorrow. The idea that it's better to have something real and concrete now than a vague promise in the future. Sebastian learned that he had spent years accumulating life debts, missed moments, postponed experiences, neglected people, all in the name of a future that might never come. And he decided to change. It started small, paying attention at breakfast, truly talking to people, putting down his cell phone, enjoying the moments. He turned down an important project to spend time with his family. He went on a solo trip to the forest, and he discovered something revolutionary. Life is not about the destination. Life is about the journey. And while you're rushing toward the next goal, you're missing everything that's happening right now. It's not about stopping planning. It's about not sacrificing the present on the altar of the future. It's about valuing what you have today, because tomorrow is uncertain. It's about realizing that you can be happy now, in this moment, with what you already have. Because ultimately the only moment you truly have is this one, this exact second you are living right now. Everything else is memory or imagination. And the big question that remains is, are you truly living in the present? Or are you just waiting for a future that may never come? 50 today or 100 tomorrow? If this video made you reflect on how you're living your life, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content. And comment below, what moment are you postponing because you're too focused on the future? Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I need to ask you a question. Did you know that planning can be procrastination disguised as productivity? That's right. If you want to understand this better, I invite you to watch the channel's latest video, where I talked about the importance of not planning but executing. You can certainly learn something from it as well. Thank you for your attention. Until the next video.